Let's stand for the pledge, please.
Recording in progress.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Carol, please.
Ray Antonacci.
Here.
Richard Antonetti. Ken Demers.
Here.
Jan DeVito.
Here.
Lou Esposito.
Here.
Bob Marinero.
Here.
Dave Pope. Lou Cavallo.
Here.
Joseph Duva. Jack McHugh.
Here.
I'd like to seat Bob Marinero for Richard Antonetti and Jack McHugh for David Pope tonight. Okay, we have public participation next on the agenda.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. Next on the agenda, again, nothing that's on the agenda tonight for public hearings should be during public participation. Time is limited to 3 to 5 minutes. No disparaging remarks. Anybody wish to participate? Okay, next matter is acceptance of minutes. We have no printed minutes, so we're going to table that item to the next meeting. Mark, do you have a staff report?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Commission. Yes, a couple of things. At the last meeting, as part of the Sealy application, but I think it also took a little bit of a life of its own, was the Commission consideration of adopting on its own model P&Z regulations, possibly for this application, but if not, for at least future use. So at the guidance of the chair, I took the consultant's draft proposal and tailored it to Watertown and submitted it to you for your consideration. I think we have it as an item on the, later on the agenda, so not to take up too much of time, I just wanted to note that for you. If you recall, a couple meetings ago, some folks came to the commission that were interested in developing the Bunker Hill and Commercial Avenue, Commercial Street site, the former Heritage Development site. And I had some follow-up with them based on feedback from the commission members, particularly in regard to the kinds and types of residential development that might occur in connection with that project. And so I had a conversation with the engineer, and I think accurately, gave them some feedback with regards to the residential end of the development, which namely was to attempt to concentrate on, say, over 55 senior housing, to have a focus on that population, and also to look critically at the opposite end, which would be young folks who may be just starting out in the workforce, single or married, and maybe not having started a family yet, and maybe looking for a smaller, like studios or one-bedroom apartments, expressing the concern of a significant influx of children on the school system, and to at least take a look at that impact, depending on their bent towards what they design, into the project. So I did have that conversation. They took to heart, I believe, some of those comments from the commission, and they will be moving forward with further development of their plans, and will come back to the commission at an appropriate time to share their feedback and share their progress. What else? Again, later on in the agenda, there will be some talk about the Connecticut land use law educational series. It's a biennial series that is offered this year. It's really taken the place of former books put out by Connecticut land use attorneys with regards to planning and zoning and how it operates in Connecticut. I highly suggest that it's a virtual seminar. I highly suggest that you take advantage of it. It's an all-day seminar on a Saturday, and it's very helpful, informative. You can attend as you wish, again, because it's virtual, and we'll sign you up for that course. Last but not least, again, I was asked to develop and to share with you, let me get it here, a alternative pathway to consider adoption or consider the framework of the Sealy application. I distilled down to one page in a summary fashion what a pathway might look like going forward, and maybe at the appropriate time we could go over that and review that, unless you want me to at this point, but it's a little bit outside of the Sealy application. Your direction, Mr. Chair.
Is that your final on the staff report, Mark?
Yes, it
Okay,
is.
thank you. All right. So Chairman's report, a couple things. I'd like to get on the agenda for next meeting, the accessory dwelling units issue that we did not accept the state's recommendation, and I'd like to enact our next recommendation and put something in and put it on the agenda so we can work on that, so we can get that done. All right. And I appreciate the, Mark tonight has drafted a proposed PDD regulation that I would like to put on the agenda. I'm going to ask later on to put on the agenda for a public hearing at our next regularly scheduled meeting. And I think that's a very flexible and intelligent PDD concept, and it would meet a lot of the needs for both the public and the applicant and work well for us, okay? Now we have old business. We have a proposed four-lot subdivision, Lake Winnemog Road and Sperry Road. Has that decision been made by the Wetlands Commission on that, Mark?
No, it has not.
Okay, so we would just, we still have time on, we've closed the public hearing on that.
We have closed the public hearing.
So we have until, what date?
I believe you have, actually, in a sense, an unlimited time, because the state standards read that the Planning and Zoning Commission cannot make a determination on a subdivision application until they've received a report from the Inland Wetlands Agency.
Okay, that takes care of that. We just wait.
One
Right.
should be actually forthcoming in the next couple of weeks.
Okay, thank you. All right. The next item on the agenda is the old business, is the Sealy Center, Oakville Center Plan Development District. That's a continued public hearing. And I guess we could get to that right now. Mr. Pillacy, good evening. How are you?
Members of the Commission and staff, Franklin Pillacy on behalf of the applicant. I have submitted a written communication that I believe you have, but it's essentially a consent to extend the public hearing to Wednesday, March 1st, 2023. The purpose of the extension is for the applicant to provide a conceptual master plan site plan to be submitted as part of the application. So with that, I would ask that the public hearing simply be extended to March 1st, 2023. Thank you. Oh, one other point. I did submit additional correspondence dated January 26th, which, again, is not necessarily different from the extension, but just to include in your record a summary report of the first and second application, an amendment to the second application to remove any reference to regulation section 34.14, and an order for a transcript of the 2 public hearing sessions, because I understand that they're not automatically done as in the past. Thank you.
Do we have a motion to extend? Do we hear a motion? Do we hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, that motion carries. The public hearing is extended. We are still in the public hearing, so we have people here, I'm sure, that speak from the public. So we'll entertain people from the public. So the public hearing rules, again, we're going to limit the talks for the individuals to 3, possibly 4 minutes at the outside. Please do not repeat something that somebody's already said. We've had a lot of testimony already. Please, no disparaging remarks about anybody, and be courteous, and we'll be courteous to you. Thank you. Anybody wish to go forward and speak? Yes. Oh, I'd like to mention for the record that we received from Catherine Camara a 128-page document which the commission will take under advisement and be distributed to the commission members prior to any decision that's made on this application. Thank you.
Thank you. Catherine Camera, 31 Cottage Place. I have 62 original petitions for you, so I don't know if I should give them to Carol. Would that be
Yes,
appropriate?
please.
Thank you. And those are petitions from persons living within 500 feet of the property that are requesting that if any vote on this would have to pass by a 2/3 majority. And now I'd like to talk about a little bit about the report that you got from Glenn Chalder. And when I'm looking at this, his comments versus what I see, I'm going to tell you that I believe that this application is once again insufficient, as the environmental impact statement offered by Attorney Pillacy is not compliant, as he offers no credentials for his opinions. I think you need to follow the advice of Glenn Chalder at this point. It's not really a PDD, although I'm hearing now something's going to change. However, even with a site plan that's definitely necessary, the impact statement states that the public street is more than adequate. There's no engineering information to back that statement up, nor do I believe that Attorney Pillacy possesses any engineering credentials. It also states vehicular access will be substantially less than such impacts from prior industrial use. Again, there's no engineering information to back that statement up. It states there will be no adverse impacts to various town services with no information to back that up. There will be no adverse impacts to the proposed action with no information, and there are no alternatives, and there's to the proposed action with no information to back that up. I can tell you right now, as far as adverse impacts to various town services, I can think of one, and I think you should all consider this. We have a town green, Oakville Town Green there. So what's going to happen to our Memorial Day parade that ends at that town green, and our Veterans Day when they have the celebration there? Are the persons who usually speak at those, are they going to be interrupted by "Welcome to Wendy's, can I take your order"? Are we going to have a competition between what's going on the green and a fast food restaurant? And when you say that it won't impact our town services, I believe that our town maintenance people are going to be there every day at our green, cleaning up French fries and napkins and containers, etc. So I don't believe that statement to be true. But I also don't believe that we have any professional guidance from Mr. Pilosi on where he can make those statements. Am I out of time?
Yes, you are.
I'm out of time?
Yes.
Okay. I would like to come back a second time if that's possible. Thank
See,
you.
it depends on, I'd like to extend that courtesy. It depends on how long this hearing goes. Thank you. Yes, sir. Please state your name and address.
David Overbaugh, 23 Ball Farm Road. I'm going to try not to repeat anything I've said before and try to make it quick. I made a nice outline, but there's a lot here, so I might have to come up
Okay.
again. I just want to, I mean, Glenn's not here, Mr. Tralder, but I wasn't at the last meeting because of illness. I just want to say that was an excellent, thorough, and professional report. Perfect. It's exactly what we thought. Out of town last week. So I received a copy last week of Attorney Pilosi's site plan, and immediately saw what I'm considering a Wendy's drive-through right on Hillside Avenue. But that aside, does anybody, and I'm not asking for answers, I'm not really asking a question, I'm just saying, does anybody really think this is a fit for Oakville? I don't, and that neighborhood. We're not Queen Street, we're not Chase Avenue, we're not Reedville Drive in Waterbury. Small village, you want to, people, I'm just trying to skip through stuff that I'm not repeating. All right, next. It was very interesting. Went on Watertown Talks, and wasn't a member of it, but I could see it, and I read it the other day, and saw that Mr. Lombard had posted some site plan that he claimed that he submitted 8 months ago to Planning and Zoning, to Mark, and to the commission. I immediately emailed Mark, asked if he had it. He was going to look. I verified today. It was never received. So I don't know what this is. It looks nothing like what Attorney Pilosi handed last week. It actually looks like the Target Plaza out on Chase Avenue with Stop and Shop and everything. So I was a little thrown back by that. So I immediately contacted. So I'm wondering why the neighbors were never shown this before. Why was this not shared with the town? Why was it not shared with the commission? Just seems a little deceptive to me. Is this the original site plans that they didn't want anybody to see? I have no idea, but that's what I think. Let me close it up. I just want to say that I think Attorney Pilosi and his clients have been very vague on their plans for this property, and that goes without saying. Everything seems very secretive. No real site plans or possible tenants have officially been named, but they are adamant about 1 or 2 fast food drive-through restaurants, which leads me to believe that there's possibly a deal already with certain businesses, as far as I could tell, but I don't know. I'm also wondering why they're so unwilling to do a traffic study, which is desperately needed, because that is a small, congested area. Everything just seems very deceptive to me. As my fellow neighbors and I have stated I'm almost done. I don't even need to come back up. As many of the fellow neighbors and I have said many times, we're not opposed to development of this area, but we want it developed in a positive way for the neighborhood and for the town. What this group is proposing is not beneficial to anyone except their bottom line. To the developers who I thought were going to be here, Mr. Pilosi could tell them, I suggest they talk to Jack McHugh on what to develop, like he developed over on Echo Lake Road. That would be an exact perfect fit for that area downtown. Very nice building, beautiful grounds, businesses that fit the area, low traffic, and probably one of the best restaurants in town. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, and Jack McHugh thanks you. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Robert Rose, 147 Riverside Street, Oakville.
I'm sorry, I didn't get your last name.
Rose, R-O-S-E.
Easy, sorry, thank you.
No, I wasn't being rude.
No, I just didn't hear you.
My wife says I talk too loud. I know we've all been talking about traffic and the buildings that are going to be built in there. Something came over me a while ago. Has anyone considered what crime rate's going to go up in that area and what it's going to do to our property values in that area? And if we decide to get out of there because of the congestion and everything that's going on, what are our property values going to be worth? What about us? What's the bottom line for us here? You know they're not going to increase in value. That's a given. No matter where you put one of these in, go look at Brass City Mall. Go look at any plaza that's being built in a residential area. The value of property does not increase, it decreases. And I can give you a couple of examples where I have called the police department because someone was dumping garbage in my backyard. And over 45 minutes went by before a police officer came there. I had taken down the make, the model, the marker plate of the vehicle. The response I got from the police department was, holy smokes, there's some good wood in there. You got a wood stove, why don't you take it out and burn it? And no one ever came down to clean the mess. I was stuck with it. So this is a concern of mine. What's going to happen with the traffic that's going in there and the type of people that are going to be floating around our neighborhoods? Yesterday afternoon, I came up from Shaw's Hill down onto Bearsley Avenue to pull in my driveway, which is directly across the street from my house. 42 cars went by before I could get out of Bearsley Avenue to get into my driveway from here to that wall away. With the site plan layout over here, with the shopping center that's going in, adding another 300 cars every couple hours for people going in and out. Now, not an inconvenience to anyone here. I've said it before. You don't live there. We do. And we've kept it a good neighborhood for all these years. I'm afraid of what it's going to be turned into. That's my concern.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Yes, ma'am. Please state your name and address.
I have a long name.
It's okay, I do.
My name is Elizabeth Bashutinsky, and I live at 514 Sylvan Lake Road. And I wanted to start off by saying thank you to all of you for voting already in order to continue the public hearing. I think that we're going to need the next 2 months, in other words, all the way to April, in order to sort out a very big problem that we're all dealing with. In looking at the material that was put together by Catherine Camara, and which I know that you, the members of the Planning and Zoning Committee, are going to be looking at tomorrow, and thinking about it, I'd like to bring your attention even tonight to one of the reports that was put forward back in March of 21, almost 2 years ago, by Joseph Sechrist. And Joseph Sechrist writes in his report, which he presented at the time of the Economic Development Commission, in point number 3, that there was a meeting of town officials and purchasers of the former Sealy property in Oakville in order to discuss their plans for the location. They had read our report from Advanced CT concerning the town's proposed uses for the property. The meeting was useful for the exchange of potential ideas, was considered a free-ranging discussion prior to formal application. We still don't have a full formal application. In the materials which were presented to you prior to this meeting, you have 4 pieces of paper which were handed to you at the last meeting, the special meeting. And of those 4 pieces of paper, if you look at them carefully, you'll find that two are a copy of one another. You will find that those were the two copies that are absolutely the same, are dated April of 21. You will find that there is a copy that was given to officials, presumably of the town, on May 21, which is exactly the same thing which was given in the concept paper of April. And then there's a very nice piece of paper which has little houses on it, which is similar to a child's coloring book, which has nothing to do with the concept suggestion. So I say we have a lot of work to do, because what the proposal is of a concept is clearly and only 3 buildings. Sometimes they are labeled grocery store, sometimes they are not labeled grocery store. A small building on the corner, and also the never-ending discussion about the fast food restaurant, which is brazenly labeled as fast food and brazenly labeled with a roundabout with the windows for the fast food delivery. The only thing that is different on those pieces of paper is the location of a large cluster of parking lots, of parking areas for individual cars. So please look at that conceptual idea, because I think that you, being intelligent people, are going to say, this is all the same. The only thing that's different is the date. And even the date looks very similar to one another.
Ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. You have something short to say. Your
I
time
have
is very
something
close.
very short to say.
Okay.
I'd like to leave with you the thought that was presented to you back in 2019 by Mr. McGrail, who is the chairman of the Economic Development Commission. And he said concerning the Sealy property, the last thing we want is to let development happen by chance. We need a strong policy, a strong message to the developers for that property's use. Otherwise, we'll end up with a strip mall. This is a key piece of property, and he goes on to talk about it as the entryway to our town.
Thank you.
In our
Your
thoughts,
time is up now.
yes,
Thank
in
you.
our thoughts, I hope that we will all look at all of Oakville, not only that one Sealy property. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Sure.
Brian D'Amelio, 15 Henry Street. Just want to make a statement, looking at this plan that was given to us, looking at it. First of all, the fast food place behind our Veterans Park, to me, is totally unacceptable. Secondly, living on Henry Street, it totally affects me as this 40 to 60,000 square foot retail spot, which would be directly across from my house. And I'm wondering what I'm going to be looking at when I go out my front door. I'm wondering what kind of traffic is going to be coming up Henry Street, if at all, to facilitate this building. Clearly, for the date on here says April 2021, and for my knowledge, at least the last 2 meetings, Mr. Pillacy and his applicants denied that they had any idea what was going in there, when clearly it states there, fast food restaurant and a big retail space built on the slab, which is, again, directly across from my house. And me raising my 3 grandkids, I fear for whatever traffic is going to be going up and down that road, if any, which would preclude me to say we need an independent traffic study so we can figure out how this is going to affect our village. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else from the public? Yes, sir.
Good Good evening. David Mango, 240 Riverside Street, Oakville. Well, when Mr. Pillacy gave them documents of the plan of the site on Sealy, I went to Miss Allen, I paid for some money for some prints. From there, I went to Thomaston, Connecticut, to the State Department of Transportation. Talked to them about a traffic survey. They told me they don't do the traffic survey. The survey has to come from SLR. That's the company with the print. That's the company that Mr. Lombard's probably working with. They have to give you the traffic survey. Then I called SLR. I talked to a certain person there, referred me to another person, very good people. They're consultants for malls and this and landscaping, and he's doing some work on landscaping in Oakville, but Mr. Lombard never asked him to do a traffic survey. He says, well, we'll have to wait for Mr. Lombard, so you mentioned it to him, mention it to him to do a traffic survey. Then the survey goes from him to them to the state of Connecticut. The state of Connecticut has a map I gave them of what Mr. Pillacy gave you. And then I explained the situation to them, why we're in this confusion, and then I explained it to SLR, the same situation, about the lawsuit and about everything. I said, here, you can't make no mistakes. This got to be dead serious, because if this thing is put through for drive-through, you're going to have a lot of traffic. And believe me, now it backs up with no traffic down past Sal the Barber. You put this through, probably be backed up down to the end of the pin shop. This is, I don't mind a grocery store, but this drive-through stuff isn't no good. Then I went to the VFW. I mentioned this to Federico and a lot of other veterans. They're all mad. You're going to build a fast food drive-through thing behind our monument? You ought to be ashamed of yourselves to do that. That's unethical. That don't cut it. You know, and then I've been to all these people with this petition again. And all these people got old homes built out of old growth lumber, and they're gorgeous inside. On Ball Farm, on Bearsley, all over Oakville, I've been in these old homes, and they're beautiful. And now you're going to try to put these property values down? Like I said from day one, you got to think of the people. That's the main thing, the people. Originally, I got a friend from Watertown. He was a big contractor in Oakville years ago. He's in his 80s. He said to me, the town should have bought that property, made a park, or on the concrete pad up there, put something that, a little police department or something in there. This mall stuff ain't going to cut it. It ain't going to cut it. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else from the public? Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Rose Soboleski, 456 Davis Street, Oakville. Okay, so back in 2019, that's when the town council approved through EDC's request for the advanced CT report to be initiated and processed. Came back with the highest and best use of this property. That was their job to develop. Gave appropriate types of shops and businesses to keep its village essence so it would fit the neighborhood, and no zone change was required or needed. And it specifically said no drive-throughs could be supported. Now, thinking about traffic, and I'm only going to talk about Hillside Avenue. Going up Hillside off of Main, you have the Oakville Post Office on the corner. First thing you hit is the post office driveway for their trucks to come in and out. Customer parking is there too, and next to that is a driveway that leads to a physician's office in the back and several homes. Now, those two driveways are directly opposite where the proposed entrance to, I would say, the drive-through, or at least some entrance from Hillside Avenue into that property would be established. So in essence, we're going to have a revolving door effect of traffic trying to go left or right, either from one side of Hillside or the other side of Hillside. It's just not going to work. It's just not going to work. The traffic jam-ups just can't be handled on that two-lane Hillside Avenue. And then there'll be much more immense traffic on Main Street below. And it won't only affect all the residents of the neighborhood, but there's also grammar school at the top of Hillside and Buckingham Street. So, given those reasons of the additional traffic and anticipated snarl-ups, you'll also have the vermin creeping into the residential areas due to food waste, the added noise pollution from dumpsters, and from amplified sounds like, "May I take your order?" which you already heard tonight, over a loudspeaker, but it's going to be true. And then light pollution in and around the building and parking areas. So, a PPD zone change isn't needed, nor is it appropriate for this property. The Sealy property, I should say, is surrounded by close-knit residential lands and homes. And you can't mitigate that fact.
You're close to your time?
I'm just about done.
Okay.
Yes. You can't mitigate the fact that you have those close-knit residential lands and homes around the Sealy property. And the property isn't large enough to support the applicant's proposals in a safe manner. So Glenn Chalder's report, which was very well written, referred to PPDs that were realistically much larger in land mass than this location. And that is it.
your time,
Okay.
I'm gonna ask
So
you-
I'm just suggesting that you vote down the PPD application.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Go ahead, ma'am.
Diane Haggis, 53 Hillside Avenue.
Diane, would you please say that into the speaker?
I'm sorry. Dr. Diane Haggis, 53 Hillside Avenue
Thank you.
in Oakville. As I listened to all of this, and of course you've heard the same thing from many, many neighbors, but it occurs to me it's not just the neighbors that are talking about having something that's developed, that's commensurate with the neighborhood, that is in line with the architecture of the neighborhood. You had a consultant that was independent, that gave similar information, that it should be aligned with our neighborhood, and the neighbors have to be considered. You have the report that was just referenced. You have the economic development portion that Ms. Camara referenced in the face letter that you received today. So there's no professional body that I'm aware of, except for, of course, the applicant and the applicant's attorney, whose job it is to represent his client, that doesn't see that this is an issue for the neighbors, that they should be considered. It's not just the folks that live there that are saying this. You have several reports from different bipartisan people that are saying that there are specific things that should and should not go into that area. So I don't want it to be an us and them. It's not an us and them. You have professional folks that are agreeing with the neighborhood in terms of consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Anybody else? Anybody else? Okay. The staff have any comments at this point?
Mr. Chairman, referring back to the one-page handout I gave to you, the plan, in order for an application to be, as we've learned, a true plan development district, it has to be established by the approval of 3 applications submitted and processed at the same time. One would be a text amendment application that provides the narrative of the proposed changes and is a part of the master plan documents. A zone change application locating the specific location of the planned development district. Those two parts of this application, have in fact been provided. Obviously, there's some discussion as to their completeness or any revisions that might take place, but those two parts of the proposal have been provided. What's missing, as you've heard and understand, is the conceptual master plan with information in sufficient detail for the commission to understand and establish the parameters of the PDD. In this particular case, a certain amount, but not all of the information, has been provided by the applicant. And so I've listed what those specific items would be. And there's several of them that would give the commission the idea of the basic parameters of the site of the conceptual overall plan. There would be schematic architectural drawings. You have received copies of those. There would be, of course, a data table that is simply a zoning table that lists the pertinent information so you can understand that it fits within the within general zoning parameters. And then a traffic study estimating the potential traffic generation so you could understand in a basic format, at least in the beginning, what the capacity of streets within the neighboring zones would be to accommodate traffic. So this is with the fulfillment of these three components, it could be considered a PDD for the commission to consider. One of the drawbacks at this point of time is a possible lack of time for the applicant to complete the outstanding site details and the traffic study, but as you know, the applicant has granted an extension, and presumably they're going to move forward with all or part of that, depending on the conversation. So that's our, kind of short summary of what appears the application, what the applicants would need to provide to you in order to complete this particular PDB process that you have in front of you.
Thanks, Mark. Commission members? Any comments? Any discussion? Okay, I have a motion to, do I hear a motion to just continue to, all right, 3 minutes? I'll give you 3 minutes.
Sorry, I wasn't sure when
It's all
to
right.
disrupt
It's all
you.
right.
Catherine Camera, 31 Cottage Place. I just have a couple other things I wanted to add. One being that Mark Massoud made a comment at the end of the last meeting about the DOT, and he's absolutely right. The DOT is not interested in being involved after an application is approved, and I know this because when the approval was made for Starbucks, I contacted the DOT. Kevin Nursek, he's since retired, but didn't know I was the third person to contact him, and they were furious that they were not aware of the Starbucks until after it had already been approved. So Mark Massoud is accurate. The state doesn't want to hear after an approval what you're trying to do, and then they're going to have to try to make it work. Second point I want to make is that we've been told that after COVID, all these restaurants, everybody needs a drive-through. Well, I just want to point out that Five Guys opened a new, and Five Guys has been closing restaurants. They opened a new one down in Waterbury on Reedville Drive. It's not a drive-through. So it's not true that every restaurant that's getting opened, and even something that's in the fast food realm, has to be a drive-through. And number three, if I can actually read my own writing. How many people have come here and said to you, this is the greatest idea ever? Because I've been here first round, second round. First round, you had two people, Eric Markowitz and Ron Blanchard. Second round, I don't know that we've had anybody. And maybe now, everybody's going to race out and tell everybody to come here and say positive things. But up until today, and up until this comment that I'm making, you haven't had anybody here telling you that this is a wonderful idea, and it's a wonderful idea to put a drive-through in downtown Oakville as our center. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on the agenda, because this public hearing is continued to the March meeting. We have several letters, new correspondence, letter dated January 26, 2023, amendment to seal the application to remove reference to zoning regulations, section 34.14, drive. We've accepted that letter. Letter dated January 26, 2023, from Attorney Pillacy, petition to amend zoning regulations, definitions to add planned development district and establish Sealy Oakville Center Planned Development District. We accepted that letter. We have the options here that it's already been decided that we're going to continue the public hearing. The applicant's been granted an extension of time for further deliberations and possible revisions. Now we have new business. The first item of new business is 56 Echo Lake Road, LP and MR LLC. No. Public hearing's closed. Application to convert 8,456 feet of existing industrial space to residential use. Request for interpretation of zoning regulations. Mark, do we have a letter from the town attorney on this?
Yes, sir. I came in late this afternoon.
Okay, do I have that letter?
Yes, you do. I'll give you another.
Yeah. I got a lot of papers here. Sorry. All right, I'd like to begin this with the letter from the town attorney to read it for the benefit of the commission. It's from Attorney Jessel. I've been asked to render an opinion on the ability of the Planning and Zoning Commission to interpret its regulations concerning the permissibility of residential uses in the IG-20 district. Subsection 5 permits residential use limited to 25% of the total square footage of the building. The property at issue here consists of 4 buildings. The 2 possible interpretations are: 1, that each building can only have 25% of its square footage committed to residential use; 2, that in a situation where, as here, there are more than 1 building on the property, the 25% is calculated by adding the total square footage of all the buildings, but the residential uses can be located in less than all the buildings. It is possible to read too much into the fact that the regulation as written uses the word building in the singular. For nearly every property located in the IG-20 zone, there's only 1 building on each lot, so that reading makes sense. One could assume that if the reading in number 1 in the preceding paragraph were intended, the word each would have been inserted before building. This appears to be more of a case of making the assumption than that there would be only 1 building per property. In the final analysis, the Planning and Zoning Commission has the sole power to interpret its regulations. In my opinion, reading the language of subsection 5 of 25.2.1 to permit the property owner to aggregate the total square footage of the buildings located on a lot does not subvert the purpose of the regulation, and such a reading would be permissible, and should the commission be so disposed. Okay, so we have an opinion from the Attorney Pillacy. Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission and staff. On behalf of 56 Echo Lake Road, an application that includes a number of items. One is the request for interpretation that you just commented on, and then there's a site plan, the application form, the site plan itself. A building 1 shows the proposed residential use of that building with some architectural drawings as well, and the application fee, but I understand that's going to be adjusted through staff based on the cost, a projected cost of the actual construction for the residential apartments. There's nothing changing on the site plan. The only thing that's going to occur here, if this site plan application is approved, is firstly, we would need the commission to adopt the requested interpretation to allow all of the available square footage to be located and assembled in one building. And secondly, an approval of the site plan, again, that shows no changes outside, simply the construction of the now allowed residential use inside. So we would ask the commission to, if you see fit, to endorse the interpretation to allow all of the construction available for residential to be inside one building, and then the site plan application can proceed in the ordinary course. But as site plans go, I don't think there's much going on here.
Thank you. Commissioner, have any questions? Any discussion?
I just have one comment. I'm just happy to see the building is under construction and looking better. I think it's an add to the town.
Any other commissioners?
Through the chair.
Yes.
Is he proposing all two-bedroom apartments?
Excuse me?
Is he proposing all two-bedroom apartments above these buildings?
No.
I'm not sure of that.
I think there was a studio too. Yeah. Yes.
Hi, my name is Michael Gonzalez, and
And your last name, I'm sorry, sir?
Gonzalez.
Thank you.
I work for LPNMR and Lupo Electric right across the street. I manage the property for Mr. Lupacino and Mr. Rizzucci, who are doing the project. It is not all two bedrooms. There's 6 two-bedrooms, 2 one-bedrooms, and an efficiency apartment, so it's 9 total.
Any other questions? Any other commissioners?
Yeah, I still
Discussion?
have
Go ahead, Louis.
How about as far as parking? It doesn't seem to be enough adequate parking in there.
I believe the code states there needs to be 2.5 spots per unit. The plan does call for 9 ports, 9 garages with a spot in front of each garage, and we also have additional space in our lot which will have parking.
So are the commercial buildings no longer going to be there?
No, the
These are
commercial,
apartments above there, right?
yes, sir.
So how about parking for the commercial buildings as well as the apartments?
So the commercial buildings, there's 3 retail locations, and each one of them have parking spaces in front of their, location on our lot. And the other areas are offices, which have parking as well. There's parking for all, according to the town's requirement, 2.5 spots per apartment, plus there's multiple spots for each business.
And as far as coming in and out, are you coming out just in through Echo Lake, or are you going out through the Silk Street there?
At this time, we have an entrance on Echo Lake Road. We also have an entrance on Silk Street, which is just sort of a, we just have millings down, and it's a separate entrance, but we plan to finish that entrance so that there'll be multiple entrances.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
Mr. Chairman.
So there's 72 parking spaces provided. Do we see 72, Mark, do we see 72 parking spaces on this plan?
How did we come up with 72?
Because
Just
it's on your table, parking table.
okay. On the current situation, no, but on the finished space, yes. It was designed by an engineer.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
The application was received on Friday, so we haven't had a chance to review the specific. I'm certainly aware of it because we've had a pre-application meeting with the architect. But parking would be an issue that I would look at, and respectfully would request that you if you certainly wish to accept the town attorney's opinion, but to continue this until we have a chance to just review.
Okay, yeah, well, I would like to, the commission to consider the request to have the 25% in one building at this point, and then it's the site plan and the parking issues can be handled by the zoning department, you know, whether the compliance is met at a later time, all right? So do we have any discussion on the issue of allowing the 25% to be all in one building? Any comments by the commission?
No.
Do we have a motion to adopt that and allow that, or do we have a motion to deny that?
So moved.
So move to what?
Oh,
Adopt?
to adopt.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Do we have any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? You got what
Thank
you
you very
want
much.
tonight. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right. The next item on the agenda is consideration of a proposal to adopt model regulations for the planned development district. All right, Mark has given us a proposed planned development district regulation, and I would like to entertain a motion by the commission to place this as a public hearing for the next regularly scheduled meeting.
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor? Any discussion? Any discussion? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. Please put it on the agenda for a public hearing at the next scheduled meeting.
Will
Thank
do.
you. Thank you for doing this, Mark, also. All right, so I think, I would like to just comment that I think this is a really good plan. Okay? It's flexible for the developer, and it meets the needs that we, the commission, will require, I believe. All right, so we have, the next item on the agenda is communications and bills. We've already heard from Attorney Pillacy on the transcript. The virtual seminar, okay, we have a requirement now that every commissioner has to do 4 hours, is it?
4 hours.
4 hours. 4 hours annually of education. This is a virtual seminar. This works very well for this purpose. We would like to see, you know, it's a great opportunity to do it. You can do it on your computer at home. You know, so I encourage everybody to try to comply with that requirement by the state and get the 4 hours in annually. And this is a great way to do it. I'm going to do it. Danny, you're going to do it.
Yep.
Right? So I highly recommend it.
You'll also, I'm sorry, you'll also receive a very good reference book for use afterwards. It's very comprehensive. I use it all the time to look back and look at issues that come up in planning and zoning, inland wetlands, ZBA. It's very comprehensive, so it's an added bonus.
Okay, great. All right, so Connecticut's Federation of Planning and Zoning Agencies quarterly newsletter and conference. AquaTurf, get a free dinner and a presentation, right? Somebody talks at that meeting, right? Gives a presentation. And that's very good also. So, I mean, if anybody wants to drive up with me, be happy to accommodate them. We can go up as a group, right? A drink or two, dinner, and a talk. All right, thank you.
Is the talk 4 hours?
No. Hopefully, it's about half an hour.
No.
Max, right. Informal discussion. Any commissioners have anything to add? Say about anything going on?
About everything going on with,
Anything.
yes. So I used to have my office at Depot Square. And I'm not 100% sure that Silk Street is a town street. I think it's an easement. So I'm not sure, you know, they were talking about the possibility of them coming off Silk Street to get into their property.
So when we were our owners of Depot Square, what we had to do to keep it an easement is we had to shut that road down for 1 hour a year, just to make sure we kept it as an easement, so that, the town wouldn't take it over as eminent domain. Just, might want to look into that.
Okay, well, I've not heard that, but certainly we'll look into that.
Thanks.
Good point. Anybody else? Any other commission members? Anything? Okay. Next meeting date is March 1st, 2023. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Seconded?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Meeting is adjourned.